In the history of rock music, few bands can claim to have launched the careers of not just one, but three of the most influential guitarists of all time. The Yardbirds, active primarily between 1963 and 1968, were that rare exception, the unlikely breeding ground for Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page. Each of them would go on to define their own corner of rock history, but before Cream, before Jeff Beck's genre-defying solo work, before Led Zeppelin, they all passed through the same band. Eric Clapton joined the Yardbirds in 1963. Still a teenager, already deeply immersed in the traditions of American blues, his passion was for authenticity, artists like Robert Johnson and Muddy Waters. At that time, the Yardbirds were a blues band at heart, performing covers of songs by Howlin' Wolf and Bo Diddley. Clapton's guitar work helped shape the band's early sound, and he played on their breakout hit, For Your Love, released in 1965. But for Clapton, that success came at a cost. The song's pop sensibility, layered production, and radio-friendly tone strayed too far from the blues roots he cherished. So, just as the Yardbirds were beginning to take off, Clapton walked away. But before he left, he suggested a young session guitarist to take his place, a name that would also become legendary, Jimmy Page. However, Jimmy Page wasn't ready to join just yet, so the Yardbirds turned to another rising talent, Jeff Beck. His arrival in 1965 marked a dramatic shift in the band's direction. Beck brought with him a new, experimental approach to guitar. He introduced techniques that would become staples of rock music: fuzz tones, feedback, and distortion. Songs like Shapes of Things and Over, Under, Sideways, Down pushed the boundaries of what a rock band could sound like. With Beck, the Yardbirds moved into a psychedelic territory, paving the way for hard rock and even early metal. However, Beck's time with the band was short-lived. His intense personality and a series of missed shows led to his departure in 1966. But before he left, something remarkable happened. Jimmy Page finally joined the Yardbirds, initially on bass, while Beck was still a member. For a brief period, the band featured both guitarists on stage, creating a sound that was, for its time, nearly unprecedented. After Beck's departure, Page switched to lead guitar. He carried the band through its final phase, experimenting with heavier riffs and darker tones. But by 1968, the Yardbirds were unraveling. Page, still under contract, assembled a new lineup to fulfill tour obligations under the name The New Yardbirds. That group, of course, would become Led Zeppelin. The Yardbirds were more than just a band. They were a crucible for some of rock's most important innovations. Through Clapton's blues purity, Jeff Beck's sonic experimentation, and Jimmy Page's visionary scope, the Yardbirds left a mark far greater than their brief time together would suggest. One band with three guitar legends, ultimately shaping one of the greatest rock bands of all time, and a legacy that helped shape the sound of modern rock music. So it's safe to say that the Yardbirds were among the most influential bands of all time.